Hello guys, welcome back to Case 23, where we decode forensic science in the most interesting and easiest way possible. So far, we have explored the different types of evidences that can be found at a crime scene, from bloodstains and fingerprints to weapons, fibers, and digital evidences, and how all these are analyzed inside a forensic lab to uncover the truth. But here's something interesting most people don't think about. That how does the evidence actually reach the lab or the courtroom? Who handles it? And how is it kept safe from the contamination or tampering? And why does it matter so much? Well, the journey of evidence from the crime scene to the lab is just as important as the analysis itself. And today we are going to uncover the journey step by step, from proper packaging to the legal chain of custody, from transportation protocols to the final storage. This video will help you understand how crucial evidence is protected every step of the way. So stay tuned because at the end of this video, you will know why the safe transportation of evidence is not just a procedure, it is a pillar of justice. Alright, so before we dive deep into everything, let me quickly tell you what we are going to talk in this video, just so you know that what to expect. We will start with a simple introduction, what forensic evidence really is and why transporting it the right way is super important. Then we'll talk about something called the chain of custody. That is basically a fancy term for the record that shows who handled the evidence, when, and how. After that, I will walk you through some general rules and guidelines that forensic teams follow when they transport evidence. These might seem small, but trust me, they make a huge difference. We will also look at the type of materials used to pack different kinds of evidence, like paper bags, vials, and even something called a Faraday bag for electronics. Then comes the actual transport, how they move the evidence, what kind of vehicles are used, and why trained people are the only one allowed to carry it. We'll also touch on the legal side of things, what happens if evidence is mishandled or lost during transport, and how that can affect the whole case. And finally, we will talk about what happens to the evidence once the case is over, or if it becomes a cold case, like where do they keep it, or for how long and why. So, yeah, lots of good stuff ahead, and I will keep it simple and clear, just like always. So, let's get started. So, first, let us start with the introduction. So, to kick things off, let me ask you a question. What is forensic evidence? Now, to answer that question, forensic evidence is anything collected from a crime scene, victim, or suspect. That could be things like fingerprints, DNA, blood, weapons, fibers, or even documents. This evidence is super important because it helps solve crimes and build cases. Now, transporting this evidence the right way is crucial. If it is not handled properly or gets exposed to the wrong conditions like heat or moisture, it could get damaged or contaminated. That means it might not be usable in court. So that is why we have strict protocols for transporting evidence. It helps keep it intact and ensures that there is a clear chain of custody, basically tracking who touched it and when. This is the key to make sure that the evidence is reliable and can be used in the investigation. So next, let us talk about chain of custody. Now, if you have watched my previous video, I have used this chain of custody term more often. So let us discuss in detail. Now, the term chain of custody is really important in the world of forensic science. Simply put, it is a record that tracks the journey of evidence from the moment it is collected at a crime scene all the way to when it is presented in court. It is like a paper trail that makes sure every step is documented and there is no break in the process. So why this is so important? Well, first off, it guarantees the integrity of the evidence. Imagine if someone got their hands on it and tampered with the evidence. This could completely ruin the case. The chain of custody helps make sure that this doesn't happen. It also provides a clear, traceable record of who collected, handled, analyzed, and stored the evidence. For example, let us say a detective collects a bloody shirt from the crime scene. The chain of custody will show who collected it, who transported it, who analyzed it, and where it was stored along the way. This way, we can make sure that everything was done by the book. Most importantly, it helps prevent tampering, contamination, and even the loss of evidence. Without this clear record, the evidence could be questioned in court, and that is a major issue for any investigation. So yeah, chain of custody is crucial for keeping everything transparent, secure, and trustworthy from the crime scene to the courtroom. So let's go over some general guidelines for proper handling and transporting evidence. First up, using the right containers. It is crucial to pick the right container based on the type of evidence. For example, biological sample like blood or hair should go into paper bags, while firearms should be placed in rigid and sturdy boxes. But it is not just the container. It needs to be clean, dry, and non-reactive. This ensures that nothing in the container will affect or compromise the evidence inside. For instance, if you put a weapon in a damp or dirty box, it could cause rust or contamination which might affect the evidence. Also, avoid materials that could mess with the integrity of the evidence. Certain plastics or other materials might interact with the evidence, so always make sure that what you are using is appropriate for what you are transporting. Next, let's talk about some of the important measures that has to be taken by a forensic expert during the collection and transportation of evidence. First and foremost, always use personal protective equipment or PPE like gloves and masks. This helps prevent your own DNA or any other contaminants from getting onto the evidence. Next, when handling evidence, always handle one item at a time. Never package multiple pieces of evidence together. If you put everything in one container, it could mix or contaminate, ruining its value in an investigation. Also, make sure to change your gloves between handling different pieces of evidences. This is a simple step to avoid cross-contamination, where one piece of evidence might accidentally transfer to another. And finally, when collecting trace evidence like fibers or hairs, always use sterilized tools. This is important because non-sterile tool could introduce contamination or alter the evidence you are trying to collect. Next up, we have labeling and sealing, which is critical to maintain the chain of custody and ensure the evidence remains intact. Every evidence container must be clearly labeled with a few key details that are the case number, the evidence number, a description of the item, the date and time it was collected, and of course, the name and signature of the person who collected it. Remember, chain of custody. Now, this helps keep everything organized and ensures that each piece of evidence can be tracked back to the exact moment it was collected. Now, for sealing part, you should always use tamper evidence seals, which means that once that container is sealed, you can easily tell if anyone has tried to open it. Don't forget to sign across the seal. This adds another layer of security. Finally, make sure the seal covers the entire opening of the container. This way, no one can access the evidence without it being obvious. Now moving on to our next topic, which is packaging materials that are used to store evidences. The right packaging is crucial for preserving the evidence and preventing contamination. First, we have paper bags and envelopes. These are ideal for biological evidences like blood-stained clothing or tissues. Why? Because they help prevent moisture buildup and allow the evidence to air dry, which is really important for keeping it in its original state. Paper bags and envelopes are commonly used for trace and dry materials like fibers or hair as well. Next up, we have glass vials and plastic tubes, which are used for storing liquid samples like urine, blood, or chemical residues. Glass vials are great because they are resistant to chemicals, making them perfect for more reactive substances. However, for less reactive liquids, plastic tubes are often preferred. No matter what, always make sure to seal them tightly with a cap or store them upright to avoid leaks or contamination. Then moving on to transport boxes with insulation. These are used for temperature-sensitive biological substances or evidences like DNA or blood samples. These boxes are designed to maintain a stable internal temperature and may include cool packs or insulation to keep the evidence at the right temperature during transport. Now this is crucial because some evidence like DNA can degrade if it gets too warm or too cold. In fourth, we have plastic evidence bags. Now these are typically used for non-biological items like bullets, knives or documents. However, you need to be cautious when using plastic bags. They should never be used for biological samples as they can trap moisture which can damage the evidence. When using plastic bags, always make sure they are transparent, sealable, and durable to keep the content secure and visible. And lastly, let's talk about Faraday bags. These are specially designed sealed containers used for storing electronic evidence like mobile phones, tablets, or laptops. The unique thing about Faraday bags is that they prevent devices from sending or receiving any wireless signals such as Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, GPS, or cellular signals. Now this is really important because it blocks any remote access or attempts to wipe the data from the device while it is in custody. Keeping the device isolated in a Faraday bag helps preserve the data and ensures it can be safely analyzed later. Now let's dive into the transportation protocol for evidence. First off, specialized containers are a must. Once evidence is collected, it should be transferred immediately to prevent degradation or loss. Now this is especially true for biological and time-sensitive materials like DNA or blood samples, which need to be prioritized during transport. It is also crucial that only authorized and trained personnel handle and move the evidence. Now, these handlers must fully understand the chain of custody, the importance of evidence integrity, and the legal procedures involved. This ensures that the evidence remains reliable and admissible in court. And then next are the vehicles used for transporting evidence. The vehicle must be secure, clean, and designated specifically for evidence transport. This ensures that nothing else in the vehicle interferes with or contaminates the evidence. It is crucial that the vehicle is only used for transporting evidence, keeping everything separate from personal items or other materials that could cause contamination. For biological or chemical evidence, temperature-controlled compartments are a must. These compartments maintain a stable environment to prevent the evidence from degrading due to heat or cold. For example, blood samples or chemical residues need to be kept at the right temperature to ensure their integrity throughout the journey. And then the another key point is to avoid placing evidence near potential contaminants or hazards. This means keeping the evidence away from anything that could compromise it, like food, cleaning products, or even other types of evidence. Every step in the transportation process is about ensuring that the evidence remains as it was when it was collected. Then let's discuss some important legal considerations when it comes to evidence transport. First, prompt transfer is crucial. Evidence needs to be moved quickly after collecting to prevent any damage or deterioration. Delays can affect the integrity of the evidence, making it less reliable in the investigation or in the court. Next is priority handling, which is especially important for biological samples. Materials like the blood or DNA are sensitive and can degrade quickly. Therefore, they need faster and more careful transportation to preserve their value for analysis and legal proceedings. Authorized personnel are the only ones who should manage and transport evidence. It is essential that only trained individuals handle evidence to ensure it is properly cared for and a chain of custody is maintained. Mishandling can lead to contamination and loss of critical information. Lastly, handlers must have a clear understanding of procedural knowledge. They should be familiar with legal and forensic protocols involved in evidence transport. This ensures they follow the correct steps to prevent contamination and preserve the evidence's integrity. By following these legal guidelines, we ensure that the evidence is protected and properly documented. When all these points are followed, the court will have no reason to challenge the evidence's credibility, making it far more likely to be accepted as part of the case. Now, lastly, let's talk about something interesting. So once a case is resolved, the question arises, what happens to the evidences? Now, if a case is solved and no appeals are expected, evidence is typically kept for a specific period according to legal and institutional guidelines. This ensures that if the case is appealed or there's a need for further investigation, the evidence is still available. And for cold cases, basically those that are no longer actively investigated but may be reopened in the future, evidences need to be stored long term in a secure, climate controlled environment. This helps preserve its integrity until the case is revisited. And if the legal retention period ends and the evidence is no longer needed, it might be returned to its rightful owner, destroyed, or archived depending on the type of evidence and the jurisdiction's policies. And now we have reached the last part of the video. To end things up, let's take a moment to reflect on how critical proper evidence transportation is in forensic science. Transporting evidence is more than just a procedure. It is a critical responsibility. Every piece of evidence has the potential to uncover the truth, but only if it is handled with the utmost care. From selecting the right containers to proper labeling, sealing, and following the chain of custody, each step plays a vital role in preserving the integrity of the evidence. Mistakes or errors in transportation can lead to contamination, loss of crucial details, or even make the evidence inadmissible in the court. That is why having trained personnel, ensuring prompt transfer, and understanding legal protocols are essential. When we respect these guidelines, we not only maintain the quality of the evidence, but also strengthen the foundation of justice. So remember, evidence carries the voice of the facts, and it is our responsibility to make sure that the voice is heard louder and clear. And lastly, thank you for watching this video. If you have found this video helpful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I will see you in the next video. Bye bye.